If we have more women on board, because they can purchase even what you do as men, they are a market. It's a market down there that we have not looked at. We say we are 160 million people in East Africa, but there is a percentage of that market that has no capacity to participate in the business. So those who come to invest here need that percentage to come up. And once the women come up, the next generation of children will come up and we'll have no more children on the streets. Thank you very much. I'll stop from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bona Chairman. Mr. Abdallah, could you kindly walk us through the specific initiatives and interventions around within the banking sector and specifically at Gulf African Bank towards increasing trade?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abdallah Abdul Khalik. I am the Managing Director for Gulf African Bank. At Gulf African Bank, we have done so many initiatives to support the women and the youth. And this is in recognition to the government initiatives, which, as you know, in the new constitution, we have, for the first time, had a clause where 30% of government tenders are now earmarked for women, youth, and persons of disability. What we thought lacked in that is that, fine, we have given them that privilege, but we have not enabled them or given them the capacity to actually partake in those activities whereby they can now win these tenders and perform successfully. One of the challenges that women have faced is accessing financing facilities from banks. Banks by nature are very risk averse. Whenever you go to ask for financing, the first thing they will ask you is, what security are you giving us? And this is what actually lacked so many people, particularly women and youth, because youth are in the beginning stages of their work life. It's very difficult for them to have security. And women, one of the shocking statistics that I've seen is that out of all the title deeds that have been issued in Kenya, people who own land, only 2% is owned by women. And therefore, it becomes very difficult for them to access financing from financial institutions. So one of the things we thought of is, how do we create that enabling environment for women to take up these opportunities? It probably involves a bit of risk-taking, trust, and courage. And this is where we thought we need to play. So the first thing we did is to come up with a financing program for women unsecured if they take these government tenders. So the first thing we did was, for women who are taking tenders, government tenders, for the first time, and we told them that we will give you an unsecured loan of up to 3 million shillings if you are taking a government tender. As I said, there is risk to it, but somebody has to. And we said, after you have successfully taken 3 government contracts and paid successfully and delivered successfully, then we are increasing that limit from 3 million to 20 million shillings unsecured. So far, we have issued almost 100 facilities to women on a facility of over 300 million shillings that has gone into this project. And most of them, those which have lapsed, have been paid successfully. So congratulations to you women also. Yeah. We also thought that if we are doing this and encouraging women to participate in business and tenders, we ourselves at Gulf African Bank have now allocated 20% of our own procurements to only women. And we are saying that is only the minimum. If we have 50%, that's fine. If we have 70%, if we have whole 100%, as long as they are competitive. But 20%, we are saying there is no choice. It has to go to women. This is calling walking the talk. Yep. So we are leading by example ourselves. We have also done, in partnership with UN Women, seminars and forums for capacity building. We found also what is lacking the women is, apart from the security and collateral arrangements, is also the capacity and the skills. So the next thing to do is to build up that capacity and skills. So we have, in partnership with other international organizations, done several forums in different counties, including Nairobi, Nakuru, Mombasa, to train women how to do things. We have taken them into classes of how to participate in government tenders from inception, how to identify, first of all, how there was a tender there, to how to fill in the forms, how to keep records, how to file for KRA returns. And we have had collaborations with even KRA officers to come and train people on how to comply with the requirements. So you can see, and I think if we have just maybe 3-4 other banks who would do this, we can go a long way. It is now up to the women themselves to take up this opportunity, advantage, and use it so that we can build that capacity. We can take this privilege that has been offered in our constitution, and maybe, you never know, we can, in the next few years, why should it be 30%? If our population itself is 50-50, why is it 30%? And as I said, most of these things need to be led by example. We have done it ourselves. Our own staffing is exactly 50-50 today, as we speak. Our senior management is even more skewed towards women than men. Okay. So women, there are people who are willing to support you if you will partake this opportunity. We are there for you, and we welcome you to come and see what we can offer you. You come up with, and being in this forum today is also a great privilege for us because we get to meet you. Maybe in the discourse later on, you can also tell us more what we can do more for you. But we are there, and we want to empower this segment of our community. We really appreciate you. You are our mothers, you are our sisters, you are our wives, you are our daughters. We cannot do more than we owe you this. So please take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdallah. Daktari, please walk us through the interventions at the Ministry of East Africa Affairs around supporting women in trade.
Wamama hoye. Here, are you present? Kina baba tusiwasahau. Wababa hoye. Otherwise the ones next to me would have bullied me. So thank you, and we appreciate the presence of each one of us today. And as the ministry responsible for East African community in Kenya, we work closely with the regional EAC. We will not go into the details, but suffice to say that the integration is about market access. Kazi yetu ni kufungua soko. Kama serikali tunafungua soko kwa kina mama. We opened the market. We started with the East African community. We went to the tripartite free trade area, that is Cape Town to Cairo. And today the board member, what is the nation saying? The board member, I can see, has the Nation newspaper. What is the headline of that paper? Is it the Nation? Yeah, leo inasema nini? He can turn so that the one with the microphone can read it. Nancy is still mic'd.
Thank you, Madam Director. It says hope of jobs reaches in open borders field.
Yeah, so the whole of Africa, the 55 countries, plus South Sudan, there are 55, we are progressing to open so that you'll be able to access the market. And it is about linking agriculture, industry, and trade. We are linking agriculture, industry, and trade. And I know today we have all of you in that chain, yeah? We have wenye wako kwa kilimo, the farm gate. We have industry who will process it, and we have opened the market. Now, as my colleagues in this panel have said, most of the wamama tuko kwa agriculture. A few of you, the ones who are here today, have progressed to industry and to trade, and we want to pull the ones who are in agriculture to graduate. And that's why we are opening the market. But even in agriculture, through the sanitary and phytosanitary protocols, we are able to bring them on board. So I'll highlight only 4 areas. 1, trade policy. At the EAC, we are developing policies that will facilitate that market access. The first one is the customs union. You are aware of it. It's a detailed one, and Nancy may be sharing where we don't know. The common market protocol, the tripartite free trade area, the continental free trade area. In all these frameworks, we are putting in policies that will enable us to trade. And we are saying in all tariff bands, mama unaweza kushiriki kwa line yoyote ya products, yeah? There is no products that will not access the market. In the process, add value, and you will be able to get the market, which as the government and partnering with the EAC countries and every other country in the continent, we are opening. In all the countries, we have the bureaus of standards, we have plant health inspection services, we have export promotion councils, which are to build capacity for you to graduate. Kindly continue to engage and share with the other ladies. We too are doing efforts to develop gender-based policies that will support your mobility. The frameworks we are putting are facilitating trade at all levels, and more especially in the informal cross-border trade. But as you move, and as was mentioned earlier, there'll be cultural issues, there'll be other socio-economic issues that we also want to address to ensure that your movement is safe. We have a gender policy that is coming up. We've concluded discussions and will be penning it off for a short while in a few months to come. We are having a gender and equality-based law, which the East Africa Legislative Assembly has passed, and we hope the President will assent to it. Sexual and reproductive health, FGM, all those issues that will impact your mobility. If you are trading or if you get a good suitor across the board, we are ensuring, in case you happen to move elsewhere, you'll also be accommodated and you'll be able to trade. So we are engaging in the whole range of framework that will enable you work, stay, transit, and live well if you are trading or if you are integrated. But the big problems remains the non-tariff barriers to trade. For the women, they are unique. For the rest of the business community, they are more homogeneous. And these two we are addressing with a lens on the informal cross-border trade, where they remain undocumented. The critical one is the information asymmetry. Lack of information about the trade rules, regulations, and procedures, which lead to indirect costs. Much as we have opened the borders, agreed on them, we have one-stop border posts, there are women who still use the panya routes. Yeah. These are the women we need to reach to make them regularize their trade and enjoy all their profit, instead of every day moving on back and forth with the police, who are human beings, and once they find an opportunity, they'll naturally ensure you remain ignorant so that they tap into that ignorance. It's not that they're police, but it's first because they are humans like you and me that they'll be able to advance such practices. The technical barriers to trade are also an area that we are working very closely with the standards agencies at the grassroots. And here we have partners supporting. Trademark East Africa was mentioned to be present, has supported a lot in terms of standards, so that our bureaus of standards can be able to test your products on the ground and also be able to guide you on the market to penetrate. There is also the lack of financial institutions at the border posts, an area where I hope the banks will be able to want to come in. At the border posts, much as we have the mobile money, we do not have the financial services. They are a bit in the interior, but we know there are logistical challenges, and it's an area that we need to reach to. We are also working towards policies that capacitate the women. And this is a wide range of capacity development, from access to resources, access to information, participation in policy formulation, and so on and so forth. We are having programs with the numerous agencies to be able to do that. We are mobilizing resources to build value addition hubs in the corridors, in the trade corridors, and here too, we expect the women to take up those opportunities. We are removing the middleman in the chain so that you know the market price immediately. The forex, you are able to know the exchange rate. You are able to access market information, what is needed, and so forth. But for us in the policy, we are also able to get a lot of policy information on how the products are trading across the board. Those are the initiatives that came from the civil society and women in partnership with us. So we are engaging you in the policy formulation process. You give us feedback, but also building capacity to cross the border. The same platform, the same information, WhatsApp. You may need this WhatsApp, +254 708 807 824. +25, that is Kenya, 708 807 824.
I'd like to invite Chairman KNCCI, Mr. Kiprono Kitoni, to walk us through the initiatives that they are putting in place to facilitate trade for women.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to start by really lauding and celebrating all the women, past and present, who've walked the journey of opening the space for women to participate in leadership and women to participate also in trade. I think in 1985, 33 years ago in Beijing, the journey started, and we've seen in Kenya the fruits of it. I'm proud to say that I am the son of a very strong woman by the name of Senator Zipporah Kiton, and she was in Beijing, and she's one of the people who participated in that process. And like Barack Obama, like Mr. Kabeho, and others here, I am the father of daughters, so I believe strongly in the role of women in trade and the role of women in leadership. The theme of today's meeting, increasing women's participation in intra-regional trade, in my opinion, may have been overtaken by the events in Kigali this week. I think the real and the correct topic should be increasing women's participation in Pan-African trade, because there is a wind of change that is blowing through our continent. I think never before in the history of this continent has there been greater opportunity than we have today. Infrastructure is being deployed, and our leaders have had the courage to sign the African Continental Free Trade Area in Kigali this week. And more than ever before, it gives us an opportunity to escalate our trade from the mere 12 to 13% to the 50% that our leaders signed on to a few days ago. I'm accompanied here by Mary Mudhoni, and Mary Mudhoni is the head of Women in Business in the Chamber of Commerce, a great lady who does a lot to push the agenda for women in business in this region. The Chamber of Commerce is a business membership organization. We are part of the global chamber movement. We are present in all 46 counties of Kenya with over 20,000 members. We are also part of the global chamber movement, and I'm the vice president of the International Chamber of Commerce, representing the continent of Africa. The reason that I serve the chamber, and I think this is a secret that I will confess to today, you know, to be the chairman of the chamber, you don't earn a salary, and you spend 90% of your time. The reason I'm able to do that is because I have businesses, and my businesses are run by women. And I learned that a long time ago, that women are more reliable, they are more honest, and they are more dependable, especially in financial management and control. The role of women in business cannot be underscored. I mean, right from the most basic tasks that they do, trading in the villages, carrying water to fend for their families, cross-border trade in our borders in the region, right up to, you know, major industries that are run by women in Kenya. For example, Keroche breweries, run by Tabitha, to big business women like Gina Din Kariuki, to women who ply the arts and have made a mark globally, like Lupita Nyong'o. I think we can say that this continent has produced very many strong women in business and women who have really contributed to economic growth wherever they are. In Kenya, in the year 2010, we passed a new constitution. And the spirit of that constitution and the letter of that constitution was very clear: to increase the participation of women in leadership, in business, and in all spheres of life. And has that been realized? I would say largely it has been realized, but there's a lot more that remains to be done. In the boardrooms of corporate Kenya, in the 30% public procurement that was given to women, youth, and persons with disabilities, it is my contention that actually that facility has largely been abused by the menfolk. They have actually used it, and especially those in procurement, to benefit their own and to gain economic rent out of it. And we in the chamber are actually we are looking for a partner to work with to conduct a baseline survey to see how much that policy guideline has actually benefited the persons whom were intended to be benefited. So we believe that there's a lot more that remains to be done. 60% of the population in this region are women. And I don't know why that the women folk are satisfied with 30%. At the very least, like somebody said before me, we need to increase the ratio to ensure that we have a more equitable society. And I think it goes without saying that when women are empowered, not only are they empowered themselves, but then their families are empowered and society becomes far more stable. So I would like to just conclude by saying that what are the things that we believe in the chamber will really make a positive difference for women folk in the participation in trade and in business? And the first point that I want to really emphasize is access to information. And at the chamber, we are working very hard to ensure that we can disseminate as much information about the opportunities that are available to women. Access to capital. And this morning we've signed an MOU with Gulf African Bank and my friend here. And he's actually provided a facility where women are able to access up to 3 million shillings on their first tenders in public procurement. The chamber is also raising its voice on the late payment culture with government. And I think you'll see that many times we've addressed the issue of late payment, because that facility will only be useful if they're able to supply goods and services and be paid on time. Women folk, like everybody else, require a stable legal and regulatory environment. They require better infrastructure, and also, furthermore, they require security. I wonder, a young lady with an M-Pesa till in a neighborhood suburb in Nairobi, is she safe to work until midnight if she wanted to? I think it is absolutely imperative that we make sure that we also have laws that ensure that our women folk are safe as they do their business. And I think we need to have actually even more stricter, a much stricter penal code for those who transgress or rather bring harm to women in the course of them plying their trade. So those are the few things that we believe that can make a radical difference. We are a grassroots organization with reach across the country. We want to see also clear and transparent regulations governing cross-border trade. We want to see that the very, very bold step that our leaders took in Kigali this week is actually met by administrative, bureaucratic decision-making that facilitates the free movement of goods and services across our borders in the spirit of Kigali. We want to see that the risks that women face in trading are addressed and mitigated. And finally, we want to see a more stable society where more power, more wealth, more opportunities are given to our women folk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kitoni. And indeed, I have a dream that we will see more and more intra-Africa trade, trading among African countries. And I think the first step was to have the 50 countries sign the Africa Free Trade Area in the Kigali Declaration. Thank you so much. We'd like to open the floor for 2 or 3 questions. I think we have 5 or 7 minutes, directed to any specific panelist or the larger panel.
Good morning, all. My name is Anne. I'm a professional CEO. I deal with air conditioning. I provide air conditioning services to corporates. My question goes to the Gulf African Bank MD. It's a good initiative that you provide LPO financing to women, and you say that you provide 3 million for the people who start dealing with you. My question is, you've given a very good package, but you didn't mention about the interest. How much is the interest rate? Is it women-friendly, or is it a gentleman interest? Thank you.
My name is Clara Kathurima, the CEO of Gateway Energy, and we are basically engaged in service providing, which is construction of power lines and distribution of electricity to the rural areas. I would like to make, mine is to both Daktari from EAC and Daktari from Gulf and Mr. Kitoni. I would like to make reference to some statistics that were recently released by the Kenyan government, and this is on the sectoral GDP growth rate and contribution in 2017. You realize that Kenya is more of a service provider. In fact, the statistics show that Kenya, in terms of growth sector in value added, was 5.7, and in contribution to the GDP, the service is what we contributed most. Now, my question to you, Daktari, is what efforts are there to persons or businesses like ourselves who provide, we are not product-based, we are service providers. So what efforts are there to promote persons like ourselves who provide a service like power line construction across the border? And to Daktari Abdallah of Gulf, I don't know how much percentage of what you support in terms of service providers like ourselves, because we do borrow quite, it's quite a capital intensive sector, I must admit. And then finally to Bwana Kitoni, you did raise the issue of late payments. This is one of the greatest challenges, most of us who are involved in working with the government, that it takes quite a long time to get our money from the government. So I don't know what effort the Chamber of Commerce has in place, because most of the contracts that we sign with the Kenyan government, I'll speak for the Kenyan government, is that to sort out some of the legal issues, we have to go the arbitration way, which sometimes can take very long. So we're looking at growth as service providers. So I don't know what the government has so far done in terms of that particular area. And then to Daktari EAC, what kind of support are you giving us to work across the borders? And then to Daktari Abdallah, What kind of support do you give persons like ourselves who can provide service across the borders to also do power line construction? Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Last.
My question goes to Kitonyi and the three of you who gave us a lecture this morning. It's more or less of what she has asked. I wanted to know, Kitonyi, you mentioned that you don't understand why women settle on 30%. You had a question. Can we make it better? And in any case, did we ask for 30%? We would have asked for 100%. So I don't know, you will clarify that. We are not of an inferior whatever. And at the same time, I'm asking the chairman from the bank, the director, you said that you've set aside 3 million for the ladies. Suppose I don't come through this forum. Can I get that money or more? That's what I wanted to know, or that's just set for this forum. And Dr. Ali from the ministry mentioned that there are policies in place. Policies have always been in place. Today I've seen in the paper that this has been sorted. So has it beaten those policies in place? I've experienced taking products to Uganda, and at the border you are told, for us we don't know that, whatever you are talking, we don't know about that. Those are issues from the office. And many things have been held in the border. So these policies which are written there in the paper today, can we know when they will be implemented? Because it beats the purpose to say that policies are in place, but we are discouraged. Thank you, but thank you also for the updates.
Thank you, Josephine.
I'd like to ask to go first because at 10:45 I'll be speaking at the LICO, so I need to leave quite soon. On the issue of late payments, let me just address it in terms of what the core functionality of the Chamber of Commerce is. Our role, if I was to reduce it to two functions, is networking and advocacy. Networking, we provide a platform for businesses to network with each other, both locally and globally. And in advocacy, it is our role to raise our voice on matters that affect business. This year, our advocacy agenda number 1 is to address the issue of late payment culture. And our baseline survey actually shows us that the problem is not just with the central government, not just with the county government, it has even transcended now to large corporates, to SMEs, and even to civil society. We are becoming a country where people pay you when and if they feel like. Now, what are we saying we want to do about it? We are going to advocate, and I speak about this as many times and as often as I can. I write about it in articles, and we are also trying to see if we can drive legislation that gives a very big penalty for those who are caught up in a late payment culture. We are really suffering as a country. In fact, the amount of money that is being withheld from circulation is in the billions. So we are raising our voice, and we ask that you join us in raising our voice to those in leadership to ensure that payments are done in a timely and expeditious manner. If we can get legislation through our National Assembly so that if your payment is delayed, at least you are cushioned from a penalty from your revenue authority. Today, many people are falling off KRA because of huge penalties that they have to pay because they haven't been paid by somebody else. They're not able to service their debt. So we need to marry all this into clear policy direction that discourages the late payment culture. On the issue of percentages, you asked about that. And I think for me, what is really important is that we have started off, we've taken an important first step as a country where we've said that 30% should, not more than 30% of positions should go to any gender, meaning that it can also apply for men. If we get into a situation where women take 70-something% of positions, we as men can stand up and say, no, it was actually in the Constitution. But we all know that the spirit of that Constitution was affirmative to help the women folk. And I would like to say that we need to walk the talk now. We need to make it a reality. We want to see that effected not just in public procurement, but in the boardrooms of Kenya, in business leadership positions, in government positions, and across the board. But at the moment, I think it is just, if you look at the balance sheet of most of our listed companies in Kenya, majority of them don't even have women folk on them. When we had our elections in 2013 in the chamber, not one woman was elected. I convened a governing council meeting